My son's birthday was ruined when our neighbor reported us for disturbing the peace. We had 8 kids, a bounce house, and cupcakes. That night, she posted pictures of my guests on Facebook, captioned "Criminal Trash Neighbors." I tried to reason with her, but she screamed, "This neighborhood was peaceful before you moved in." A week later, we got a letter from the HOA threatening fines for hosting unregistered events. But we never joined the HOA. When I dug deeper, I found out she was charging other neighbors monthly fees and pocketing the money. We moved into our house in Rockford, Illinois in November of last year. It was supposed to be a fresh start. The house was older but solid, with a big fenced-in yard that my kids fell in love with the moment we pulled into the driveway. I had a good feeling. Safe neighborhood, quiet street, and a cul-de-sac that looked like something out of a family movie. It didn't take long to notice Cheryl. She lived next door in a beige 2-story with shutters that looked like they'd been painted by a perfectionist with control issues. Her lawn looked like it was measured with a ruler, and her porch had one of those "no soliciting. We found Jesus. We love our dog. We don't need anything else" signs on it. We introduced ourselves like normal people. She didn't even pretend to smile. Just stared at us. Didn't speak. Then closed the door. I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she was dealing with something. Maybe she wasn't used to kids. Who knows? I wasn't going to let one cold neighbor ruin our excitement. We settled in. My husband, Eli, works from home in IT. I teach 3rd grade. Our son Aiden had just turned 8, and our daughter Maddie was starting kindergarten. We're not wild people. We're early bedtime, pizza on Fridays, screen time limited type folks. So we didn't think a small birthday party would be a problem. We were wrong. We planned a simple backyard party. 8 kids total. 6 classmates, Aiden and Maddie. We rented a small bounce house from a local party rental place. Set up folding tables. Bought cupcakes from Costco. The whole thing cost us under $200. Music was playing from a Bluetooth speaker. Kids were laughing, bouncing, chasing bubbles, and generally just being kids. Parents were chatting. It was wholesome. I thought we were doing everything right. Until a police car rolled up and parked in front of our driveway. 2 officers stepped out. One of them looked like he already regretted being there. "Hi, ma'am. We got a call about a noise complaint." I blinked. "Noise?" "Yes, ma'am. Your neighbor reported loud music and possible disturbances." He was looking at a literal bounce house and children with party hats eating cupcakes. I kept my voice calm. "Officer, this is a kid's birthday party. It's a Saturday afternoon. We're wrapping up in an hour." He nodded. "I understand. We have to respond either way. Just try to keep the music down, alright?" The kids were confused. I could feel the energy deflate. Parents looked awkward. One family left early. Aiden looked at me like he'd done something wrong. I told him everything was fine, but inside I was steaming. It should have ended there. But that night, it got worse. A friend texted me a screenshot. Cheryl had posted photos on Facebook. I don't know how she got in our private neighborhood group, but there they were, zoomed-in pictures of our guests, even the kids. The caption read, "Criminal trash neighbors ruining our street. This used to be a peaceful area. Now look at it." People liked it. Commented things like, "Disgraceful," and "This is what happens when you sell to anyone." My jaw dropped. She didn't just hate noise, she hated us. I went over the next morning. Not yelling, not screaming, just demanding a little decency. She opened the door about 4 inches. I said, "You had no right to post photos of children. That's illegal. You embarrassed my son on his birthday." She sneered. "This neighborhood was peaceful before you moved in." Then she slammed the door in my face. I stood there shaking. I wanted to scream. But I held it in. Aiden asked that night if we were bad people. My 8-year-old thought having a birthday made him bad. I knew I had to do something. But I had no idea how deep it went. A week later, we got a letter in the mail. It looked official: header, logos, formal wording. Rockford Community Homeowners Association, violation notice. It said we were being fined $175 for hosting an unregistered community event that violated HOA bylaws. It mentioned late fees if we didn't pay within 10 days. But here's the thing, we were never told this neighborhood had an HOA. Nothing in our purchase agreement. No mention from the realtor. No welcome packet. No meetings. I called our real estate agent. She double-checked, there was no HOA. I asked around. Spoke to our next-door neighbor on the other side, Mr. Weems, 82, a retired mechanic. He said he'd been paying dues to Cheryl for years. She said it was for upkeep and services. Trash removal, snow plowing, neighborhood watch stuff. I asked if he ever saw any of that happen. He frowned. Now that you mention it, not really. I just assumed. Another neighbor, Sandy, showed me her ledger. She paid Cheryl $45 a month. Had been for 5 years. In cash. She was scamming everyone. Pretending to be an HOA president. Sending out fake letters. Collecting money. No one questioned her, probably because she acted like a bulldog in pearls. That explained everything: why she was so hostile, why she thought she could fine us, and why she posted those pictures. She thought she ran the neighborhood. And for years, she did. But not anymore. I didn't sleep much that night. I sat at my kitchen table, sipping cold coffee, just staring at that fake violation letter. The more I read it, the angrier I got. She wasn't just mean. She was a fraud. And not just to me, to everyone on this street. She was taking money from people, mostly the older ones, the ones less likely to question authority. I couldn't let her get away with it. So I started documenting everything. I took photos of the letter, screenshots of her Facebook post, and made a list of every neighbor I could remember talking to who mentioned HOA dues. I printed out our home closing documents that clearly showed no HOA existed. I went to the Rockford City Zoning Office and pulled public records. I was right. There was no registered HOA at our address. There never had been. I went door to door. Out of the 15 houses on our street, 8 were paying Cheryl monthly fees. 6 were in the same boat as me, never paid, never agreed to anything. One family had actually moved out last year because they were sick of the harassment. I got their contact info from a neighbor and called them. They confirmed Cheryl had threatened them with fines, even tried to shame them at a neighborhood meeting she made up. I was building a case. But I knew that reporting her wouldn't be enough. She needed to be exposed. Publicly. First, I called a friend of mine, Maya, who works for a local news station. She does those on your side investigative pieces. She said she'd be interested, but I needed proof. Real interviews. Paper trail. So I started recording my talks with neighbors, with their permission. I got written statements. I collected payment receipts, including a money order one woman still had from paying Cheryl for winter salting. Then I printed flyers. They were plain white with black letters. Warning: fake HOA scam alert. You may be paying fraudulent fees to a neighbor. I listed what Cheryl had been doing. I listed the total estimated amount stolen, over $14,000 across 5 years. I gave my phone number and email at the bottom. I placed one in every mailbox and taped them to every lamppost on our street. Then I waited. She came storming up my driveway the next morning, fists clenched, waving one of my flyers like it was a death threat. "You think you're clever?" she shouted. "This is libel. I'll sue you." I didn't even stand up. I was sitting on the front step with my coffee. "Go ahead," I said. I've got the paperwork to prove everything. You have no idea who you're dealing with, she hissed. Oh, I think I do, I said. You're a thief. You've been stealing from your neighbors. And I'm not the only one who knows now. She turned beet red. Then she screamed, actually screamed, and stormed back to her house. That afternoon, Maya from the news station called. She'd spoken to 3 of my neighbors. She was putting together a segment for next week. She asked if I'd be willing to go on camera. I said yes. But Cheryl wasn't done. 2 nights later, someone threw a bag of dog poop at our door. Not the lawn, the front door. My husband caught it on our doorbell cam. We couldn't see the face clearly, but the height and walk matched Cheryl. It wasn't enough to press charges, but it showed she was getting desperate. Then the real kicker. Code enforcement showed up at our house. Cheryl had reported us for running a business from home, claiming I was hosting illegal daycare services. It was nonsense. I showed the officer around. Nothing was wrong. He apologized and left. But it was clear. She was trying to bury us under complaints. That's when I decided to speed things up. I knew Cheryl wouldn't stop unless someone made her. I thought the flyers and neighbors turning on her would do it. I thought the local news story would scare her. But people like Cheryl don't stop until someone forces them to. The day before the news piece was set to air, Cheryl did something that pushed things way too far. That morning, I dropped Aiden and Maddie off at school like usual. When I came home, I noticed my car had been keyed, deep, ugly scratches all down the passenger side. And it wasn't random. Someone carved the word trash into the paint. I felt sick. My hands were shaking as I called the police. When the officer came, I showed him the doorbell footage again, even though Cheryl's face never appeared directly. Still, I filed a report. Insurance would cover it, but that wasn't the point. She wasn't just harassing me anymore. She was vandalizing my property. The worst part? Maddie saw it when I picked her up later. "Mommy, why did someone write that bad word on our car?" I told her it was a mistake. But I couldn't stop shaking. That night, I didn't sleep at all. Maya's piece aired the next evening during the 6 o'clock news. She went hard. There were interviews with Mr. Weems and Sandy. They showed receipts, letters, and copies of Cheryl's fake HOA violation forms. Maya explained that there was no legally registered HOA at our address, and that Cheryl had been posing as the president of a non-existent organization while collecting monthly dues from unsuspecting neighbors. The final line of the story hit hard. Residents of Meadowbrook Lane are now working with city authorities to investigate possible fraud and harassment charges. Meanwhile, Cheryl D., who declined to be interviewed, remained silent. Her face wasn't shown, but her name was mentioned. Anyone who knew the street knew exactly who it was about. I sat back on the couch. Eli squeezed my hand. I expected to feel better. But I didn't. Not yet. The next morning, I opened my blinds and saw something I never expected. Cheryl's mailbox was stuffed with papers. Flyers. Letters. A few neighbors were standing at the end of her driveway, pointing and talking. By noon, her house was surrounded. Not with police, just people. Neighbors. People who had been scammed. One guy, Paul, who lives 2 doors down and had been paying Cheryl since 2018, shouted "thief" when she peeked out her curtain. That afternoon, Cheryl's son showed up. Big guy, maybe late 30s. He tried to argue with people, said it was all a misunderstanding, but no one believed him. Sandy walked up and handed him a folder. "These are copies of everything your mother stole from us. You'll want to get her a lawyer." He didn't say a word. Just left. Later that night, Cheryl's porch light stayed off for the first time since we moved in. For about a week, Cheryl disappeared. No yard work. No threats. No notes in mailboxes. I thought it was over. Then, one morning, I went to get the paper and saw a small envelope taped to my door. No name. No return address. Inside was a single piece of paper. You've made a mistake. You think you've won. You'll regret this. That was it. No signature. I took it straight to the police. They added it to the file. Told me to keep my cameras running and let them know if anything else happened. 2 nights later, my backyard motion lights kicked on. Nothing showed on the doorbell cam, but I found one of Maddie's bikes tipped over in the grass and her seat slashed with a knife. I knew Cheryl had snapped. After the bike incident, I hit my limit. I wasn't sleeping. The kids were scared to play outside. Eli was watching our cameras like a hawk. Every time a car slowed near our house, we flinched. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about fear. And control. I called Maya from the news station again and told her what was happening. About the threatening note, the vandalism, the slashed bike seat. She was shocked. Said she'd run an update. I told her I didn't want to wait anymore. I wanted to push this into full legal action. I hired an attorney. Not some fancy guy in a glass office. Just a smart, sharp woman named Kendra who had handled fraud and elder abuse cases before. She reviewed everything I had, documents, screenshots, police reports, neighbor statements, and said 5 words I'll never forget. We have enough to bury her. We filed a civil complaint the next week. Fraud, harassment, intimidation, defamation, and damages. Kendra served the paperwork personally. Cheryl opened the door, saw the envelope, and tried to slam it. Kendra said, "You've been served," and walked away without flinching. I wish I had been there to see it. Cheryl tried to file a countersuit, but it got laughed out of court. She claimed emotional distress and accused me of starting a witch hunt. The judge asked for evidence. She had none. Meanwhile, we had hundreds of pages of proof. Then came the best part, neighbors started joining the suit. Mr. Weems, Sandy, Paul, one by one, they filed their own complaints. Cheryl was suddenly facing multiple lawsuits and a growing stack of city code violations. Her own lies had turned everyone against her. She wasn't the HOA president anymore. She was the neighborhood pariah. It took 3 months to get to court. She showed up in a tan pantsuit like she was still in charge of something. Her lawyer was some guy who clearly didn't want to be there. When the judge asked her to explain the HOA, she called it a community organization. The judge looked at her dead in the eyes and said, "You're not registered. You're not recognized. You're not real. And you charged real money to real people. That's called theft." She looked like she'd swallowed glass. We won. She was ordered to pay full restitution to every neighbor who had paid her. She was fined for fraud and harassment. She was also ordered to remove all social media posts related to the party and publicly apologize to me and my family. She refused. The judge added another fine. She finally gave a half-hearted apology in court that sounded like someone reading a grocery list at gunpoint. But it was too late. She sold her house 3 months later. The for sale sign went up quietly, but no one missed it. A few of the neighbors threw a barbecue the weekend after she moved. It wasn't a party for fun. It was a celebration that the street finally belonged to us again. The couple that bought her house? Super sweet. 2 nurses with a golden retriever and a baby on the way. First thing they said when they moved in was, "We heard about the whole HOA scam. We're not interested in that drama." I told them not to worry. Cheryl was gone. But here's the thing. She didn't lose just her house. She lost her power. Her reputation. Everything she spent years building through control and lies, gone. Not because we shouted. Not because we fought dirty. But because we stayed calm, documented everything, and exposed the truth. And I'll admit something. I made a mistake too. I should have trusted my gut when Cheryl first started throwing around words like fines and rules. I should have spoken up sooner. But I didn't. I let fear make me quiet. Not anymore. Now, I speak up. For my family. For my neighbors. For every person who ever got bullied by someone who thought they were untouchable. Cheryl thought she owned the neighborhood. Now she can't even set foot on our street without someone calling the cops. My son's 9th birthday? We had a bounce house and a snow cone machine. And this time every neighbor came by, even the ones who never used to say hello. And not a single person complained. Not one.